Hello everybody, welcome back to Forza Horizon 4. Now, if you want a speedrunning car, it's very difficult to be better than a Koenigsegg, like a Regera, or a Regera RS. But if you're speedrunning on, say, the edge of a cliff on Fortune Island, trying to set the fastest speed trap score, they're not really ideal. So, what is the best stock car, no modifications allowed, that you can get for that cliffside speedrun on Fortune Island? Now that speedrun is very narrow. The width of the track is barely wider than your car in some places. It has a treacherous cliff on the left and a treacherous cliff upwards on the right. So you gotta be very precise, you have a lot of confidence in your cars. So, I got a collection of race cars, road cars, supercars, off-roaders, racers, etc. and went to see which one was the fastest in reverse PI order. Now I started off in reverse PI order, and this is the Ram T-Rex, named to try and beat the Raptor. Pros? Well, it's got plenty of horsepower, or 500 horsepower. Strangely not 700 like I thought it would have, considering it's a Hellcat engine, but whatever. And it is meant to off-road. Unfortunately, it weighs, well, as much as this mountain is driving on, and that means the acceleration and handling, which is kind of important on this circuit, isn't as good as, say, the other vehicles we'll see later on in this list. But for a starting point, I didn't think it was too bad, and it was a Fortune Island car. I should probably use it on the Fortune Island stage. And it was actually doing surprisingly well, considering it's a massive truck at 82.1 miles an hour. It just didn't really have the overall pace to challenge, but it set a good benchmark, if you will, and certainly has the best name. Everyone fears the T-Rex. The second vehicle is the exact opposite of the T-Rex, the Exocet Off-Roader. It's basically an off-road version of the crazy XP5 from Forza 7, and I love it. It's like the Aerial Nomad, but a bit weirder. It does have 250 horsepower and skinny tires. The main problem, though, is rear-wheel drive, and although it does weigh less than 1,600 pounds, it does mean it is quite slidey. Quite slidey. And yes, it has less than 300 horsepower, but the back end really likes to kick out on this car. A lot. Like, a lot. Like, you can see I'm fighting it. Every single corner is just trying to keep it under control, and when I do have to correct it, I get weird, like, suspension physics. It doesn't work out very well. And as a result, it sadly did not do too well. I wanted to do well, but it just didn't have the grip. It didn't have the handling to do well, which is a shame, because I like this car. It's absolutely mental. It's brilliantly bonkers. Unfortunately, it's just not very good at a cliffside rally where you have to have confidence in your car, and I just could not get confidence in the Exocet, unfortunately. Continuing on with the off-road road vehicles theme, we have the Bowler. Yes, this is from all the way back from Horizon 2, actually. I love the Bowler. It's the more sensible, I say more sensible, it's very sensible in the fact that it is a race car from Dakar designed to be for the road, in the fact that it has a roll cage from standard, crazy off-road lift kit, lightweight, and it has a big old racing stripe, which is all, that just makes it faster. That's scientifically proven that racing stripes make your car faster. Alright? And, well, this is probably the lightest SUV, getting very close with the cliffside, cutting it really close with that one. It actually just started downwards right again, getting very close to the cliffside. It was very high stress run, nearly falling off twice. A little down in the brakes, heading in the final corner. Can we keep it flat? There we go. Brushed it just as it starts to go across the line in blistering time, all things considered, in the 84s. Well done to the Bowler. Very well done indeed for such a big vehicle. The crazy, mad, mental rally fighter is one of our last rear-wheel drive cars, actually. And although it is rather well suited, it is still rear-wheel drive on dirt, which is never a very good recipe, normally. But I decided to give it a go anyway because, well, when you have an off-road event, you kind of have to include the Rally Fighter by default. It's pretty awesome. I love it. It looks like nothing else in the world, and I think it's brilliant. And it's actually quite quick. However, you can see the suspension is rather soft and rather wobbly. I did also kind of minorly clamber the cliff face, getting relatively close to the edge. Not quite as close as the bowler, though. Once again, running a little bit wide. A little slow on the final corner, but that gives us a good exit speed. Heading up across line, a new record set, beating the bowler by over a mile an hour and a half, which is pretty impressive considering this is a rear-wheel drive racing car. Remember that. Rear-wheel drive versus all-wheel drive. The rear-wheel drive beat it. Quite impressive. If we want grip, this is the grip we got, really. You can't get much grippier than this in A-Class. This is the Subaru WRX Impreza rally car. Now, this is not WRC, this is more, I think it's U.S. National Rally, question mark? It competes in, like, Oregon and stuff. Very cool. Actually, you've seen it in the iconic blue livery. They brought that back. Very cool car, I must say. It looks brilliant. And, well, it has just 300 horsepower, but with all-wheel drive and crazy aerodynamics, it has a ton of grip. So, in theory, it should be able to carry much more corner speed than these high-powered off-roaders. And you'd be right. It was all I needed was a slight lift through that corner while everyone else was braking. I do obviously need the brakes for there. I very nearly proved. I nearly drove off the edge. And yeah, it was significantly easier to drive. It still was a little bit iffy in the straight line speed. It did lack that quite considerably. And as a result, it wasn't quite fast enough to defeat the Rally Fighter, excuse me. But, you know, for a car that has, what, 50 horsepower down, 500, almost 200 horsepower down on the Ram Rebel, not too bad for a 300 horsepower little car. However, if you want a bizarre, iconic rally car, you can't get more iconic than the Porsche 959 Dakar version. The only supercar to ever win the Dakar Rally outright. This, in 1984 and 1986, this won the Paris-Dakar Rally, the toughest rally in the world. So it should be pretty darn good at this. It has a flat six engine producing 350 horsepower. And it's not the lightest car either, but it does have a ton of rallying pedigree, and it's a Porsche, so it should win everything. And it was pretty good. Admittedly, my driving did let it down slightly by going too deep in the corner, requiring a bit of a power slide to make sure I actually made the corner, so maybe this wasn't the ideal run, considering I was sliding around way too much. I'm sorry, Porsche fans. I love this car. I love the Dakar Rally 959. I just royally screwed up big time. My bad. Terrible run. But I'm only allowing one attempt for this. I know. Shoot me, hang me, execute me, whatever. Probably deserve it for being an absolute disgrace to a legendary rally car. But that is what happens in racing, unfortunately. Guys, we're back to big off-road trucks again. This is the Trailcat, a 707 horsepower all-wheel drive Jeep. Yeah, it's a bit of a beast. It does weigh a few tons, but it again has 700 horsepower, so it more than makes up for it. And again, the strategy for this was crazy speed, get on the brakes, crazy speed, get on the brakes, and then pray to not die. And it was working out relatively well. We used slightly ran up the banking, but we ended up being a little bit better than the previous. I think it was the Bowler that ran up the banking. And the Jeep was doing surprisingly well. I mean, I had a Boulder, which didn't help, but yeah, I didn't know it was a Boulder, funnily enough. Boulder surprised me. And despite the Boulder, got a pretty darn good speed, 89 point something miles an hour. Pretty darn good for the 5,000-pound Jeep that has a Hellcat engine shoved in it. Not too shabby at all. After seeing the Grand Tour success of racing this against a Porsche 911, I decided to take the Lamborghini Urus around here because, well, it's a Lamborghini Urus, all-wheel drive, twin-turbo V8 from a Porsche Panamera. So it's not really a Lamborghini at all, but It should be very fast, almost 600 horsepower. All-wheel drive, as I said earlier. But it is on road tires, because the other one ran completely stock. And that means not very much grip on this, like, gravel, I guess. I think it's a gravel road. But I'm hoping the acceleration and Lamborghini handling should be enough. Yeah, just ignore the portion that fell off a cliff and died. He clearly did not have the driving skill as me. Ooh. Yeah, I might have messed that corner up slightly. I'm gonna blame it on the Porsche. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. It was a good time considering it doesn't have any off-road tires on it at all, unlike the rest of the vehicles. But it just didn't stand a chance against this much more suited competition. Having seen that the Lamborghini was too insensible, I took an even less sensible car with the Bentley Continental GT that got crashed into by a Mazda. Good job, AI. So I decided to go. Now, plus side, 700 horsepower from the W16 engine, because... No, it's a W12, sorry, W12. W16 is the Bugatti. W12 is the Bentley. My apologies. They're all the same Volkswagen anyway. It gets very close to the edge of the cliff, but it carries good speed, almost 120 into there. And although it is on road tires, it has lots of weight and all-wheel drive, which could theoretically give it a bit of an advantage. But the lack of off-road tires will harm it considerably, and I just couldn't take the corner speed at all. Plus side, 700 horsepower does give me some pretty rapid acceleration, but it's not enough. It is actually slower than the Lamborghini Urus, and that pretty much marks the end of the production cars on here. They just don't have the tires, which means they don't have the grip, which means they don't have the speed, and handling speed is incredibly important on this twisty mountain road. We go to the quite possibly the most iconic rally car of all time, the Lancia Stratos. I mean, this is a rally stage, basically. It's just a very dangerous, very speed-oriented rally stage, but it is still a rally stage. So I have the Group 4 Lancia Stratos, when it won the World Rally Championship 3 times in a row, followed by 2 more Drivers' Championships. So I think it's pretty good at rallying. I think it's pretty darn good. And I was hoping lightweight mid-engine rally design that it would be rather good around here. Downsides about having a Lancia Stratos, it does like to slide absolutely everywhere. I mean, that was the joy of the Stratos, watching that thing slide around like a maniac on steroids. But it doesn't exactly contribute to a good speed. And like the 911, 959 Pro Drive, it was good, but it just was a little too sideways. Not that I could do much about it this time. Almost fall off at the end of the stage, that was new. But it just didn't have the pace too much sideways. And that would be the demise of the Lancia. This is the Pro 2 truck, over 800 horsepower going to the rear wheels of this off-road juggernaut. Having actually seen these vehicles race, they are absolutely suicidal maniacs driving this truck. So, it's quite suited, actually, to this terrain, driving up a cliff face at very high speeds, because, you know, that's not suicidal at all. It does only have 3 gears though, which A, helps with wheel spin a bit, not that much, it is still 800 horsepower going to the rear wheels. And B, it makes it rather slow accelerating in some areas, which is a bit of a problem on an acceleration circuit. But I was carrying surprisingly good speed, 100 miles an hour through that corner, clipping the fence, getting very close to the cliff face yet again. Again, it was carrying surprisingly good speed for having almost no aerodynamics at all. And as a result, it was a blisteringly fast time, a 91 mile an hour run, the fastest we've seen so far, held by a rear-wheel drive vehicle nonetheless. Admittedly, is a massive truck, but quite impressive for being rear-wheel drive. But nothing on the crazy scale tops the manic sandrail dune buggy. Yeah, this thing, 1,750 horsepower from the sandrail, all going to the rear wheels. Also, it only has 5 gears now. It's beginning to top out at 130 miles an hour. It's the fastest, most powerful vehicle we've ever had, but there's a problem with it. It may have 1,700 horsepower, but it doesn't exactly have the suspension, or the brakes, or the tires, or the chassis for 1700 horsepower. It's like they threw a massive engine in a go-kart and called it a day. In fact, this is my third run with this vehicle, and every run I fell off. I could not physically get it around the course without crashing or carrying any form of speed. So after my third attempt, I decided to give it the first and only DNF of this challenge, simply for being just too uncontrollable for this very technical stage. But we always knew what were going to be the fastest vehicles here, the rallycross cars. This one being the Honda Civic Global Rallycross car. Why? All-wheel drive, very lightweight, and 600 horsepower tend to help, along with crazy aerodynamics. Meaning, it is quite quick. I think they're the fastest accelerating cars in the world, I think. 0 to 60 in less than 1.8 seconds. And since they're designed for very technical small rally stages, or rallycross tracks, their gearing is short, gives good acceleration, and their aerodynamics is strong and downforce, meaning you have great turning. And interestingly, the rallycross Civic could not beat the Pro 2 truck. Immediately I made a bit of a mistake on one of the corners, so maybe I had a better run, but yeah, I was very surprised by that, so I had to go find another one. Which is why I brought the Hoonigan Gymkhana 8 Ford Fiesta, because it has the exact same specs as the Civic, but it has more torque. Almost 100 more torque, which should give me better acceleration in theory. And that's great for a very small technical handling track where I need to get as much acceleration as possible out of these corners. Not to mention a little bit of bravery, shall we say, cutting it very close to the edge, very sideways up the hill, completely near vertical on that face. It was fast. Ken Block and his team really know how to build a car, because this thing is terrifyingly fast. In fact, it goes 92.5 miles an hour. That's insane. And that's from a stock Global Rallycross Hoonigan Fiesta. I say stock, it's stock in the game, so it counts, alright? Really, alright? Yeah, it counts. But I couldn't finish off this video without some good old-fashioned Group B action. So instead of taking a Audi Quattro or a Lancia Delta or a Peugeot 205, I took the crazy option of the MG Metro 6R4, quite possibly the maddest of the rally cars from Group B. It kind of looks like a Metro, and thanks to a naturally aspirated flat 6, it topped out at 131 miles an hour due to gearing, but it is very lightweight, very fast, and very nimble. Also very twitchy, but that's not the point. Point is, you can see that's a fully blown Dakar like, rally raid truck, and it just blitzed past it like it was in neutral. But a little too sideways action meant, sadly, it could not make it. I guarantee you if I had a slightly better run, it would go significantly faster than that Ford. But the MG Metro will have to sell for second place, I believe. Still a pretty darn good showing for a 30-year-old car. So there you go. If you want a very fast stock vehicle in Forza that can rival any supercar or any custom-built car on a rally stage, on the side of a cliff, or speedrunning, go get yourself a Hoonigan Ford Fiesta, wherever you find those at your local shopping market. Yeah. It helps being all-wheel drive, it helps being crazy aerodynamics, like I think it has more downforce than a Super GT car. It's a beast. Fastest accelerating cars in the world, brilliant handling, fast accelerating, fantastic brakes, not that you really needed to use them very much. All combined to make pretty much the ultimate cliffside speed track runner. So, that's a word of advice for you. Go get yourself a Ford Fiesta. Oh wait, they don't make those anymore. Damn it! Well, on that disappointment, I guess that'll be it for this episode. And I'll be back with more